Okay, so I decided to do a little pros and cons on this latest version of Spider-Man, or the Spider-Man cinematic universe from Captain America: Civil War. I know a lot of people were satisfied when they saw him, make his epic entrance, in at the end of the trailer, and he stole the. I mean, let's admit it, he stole the spotlight of that trailer. He just stole the show. Like, ooh, Captain America versus Iron Man. Ooh, who team are you on? And that just and him just jumping into the mix, seeing him, like in the flesh, like right there in suit, in full suit, making his entrance and doing what Spidey does best. I mean, that just he just stole the show. You're just like Spider-Man though, Spider-Man. But I wanted to talk about what I love about his suit and what I don't love very much about his suit. So let's start with what I love. I love the colors. Obviously, I love the blue and the reds, and I even love the black, the big chunky black edges around his around his suit, like in the arms area, like here, even where his boots are or his leggings or whatever they are, whatever you prefer to call them, like right above those two, and I also love. I mean, I mentioned it. Like how his eyes change, how it expresses, like where it squints and it opens back up again, like. Um, there, like I noticed this after I watched it, like for the 20th cajillionth time, where I decided where I would watch it with at a calm level, with where I can watch that epic part of the trailer with a level head. And when you squint it, I heard, it sounded like some kind of tech was doing that too, like when you hear. So that could be I guess could Stark Industries have something to do with that little updated version of Spider-Man's suit? Possibly, possibly. I'm sure some of you may believe that. There is some kind of tech, like going on, in, up in his mask, like where I guess where he can see better with the mask and whatnot, and I'm cool with that. That's different. I'm cool with that. Um, it gives us that nostalgic feel to it. Like this is a throwback. Like a throwback suit. Like we're, like from his Spider-Man's beginning days in the comics. Like when Stan Lee wrote the first issue, and from there on, like in the earlier issues of Spider-Man, that's how he looked. And if you are a real true Spider-Man fan, you would appreciate this, this version being presented to you in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where it's, given, where it reaches out to you, to anyone who's nostalgic, and they're just like, wow, it's just like the comic, like one of the first comics I've ever read. Like it's like it's being brought to life. I mean, like, not saying that the Spider-Man movies never did that. I mean, they did that phenomenally, and the Tobey Maguire version did that phenomenally. Even, I mean, it's a shame that that franchise had to end so terribly. Like where it just ended up being a huge letdown to a lot of fans, and and I thought it was cool how the Amazing Spider-Man tried to pick up those pieces, and it didn't really pick up a lot of them, in my opinion. It didn't, the first movie didn't live up to the word amazing. Part two of the Amazing Spider-Man, kind of stepped, above that underwhelming, ness, and but like the suit, first of all, in the first Amazing Spider-Man was probably the the weakest, but it could have been worse. But it's still the weakest in my book. But in part two, they made up for it. It was a little bit more traditional, even though the eye sockets look pretty silly, but it's still, in my opinion, better than in the first movie. But like, I mean, some of you are fans of that suit, and some of you are fans of the Sam Raimi version suit, the Tobey Maguire suit. And I'm not going to argue with either sides. That's cool. You all have your opinions. Some of you may prefer, the Amazing Spider-Man over this one. Some of you may prefer Tobey Maguire's suit over this one. Hey, that's cool. That's cool. I'm not gonna argue with that. Everyone has their preference. But I'd say this one shares the throne with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2 Spider-Man suit. Um, where that one, like it's like the red and the blue really shined in that movie, and it looks like, to me, in my opinion, it looks like we may, since there's too much going on. Like there's enough going on with Captain America, going up against Iron Man with this whole, should we let the government, control us or not, blah, 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 blah. There's going to be too much going on for us to focus on Spider-Man as much as we would want to. So they're going to probably save that for his own movie, which, in other words, he's going to have on the mask do like a good chunk of the movie, and we're not really going to see a whole lot of Peter Parker underneath the mask. Maybe, in some parts, but not so much. It's going to focus on more of Spider-Man's, I guess, perspective, his opinions on this war, and whose side does he choose. I don't think he's gonna get an iron suit in this one. I could be wrong. I think, Tony Stark did update his mask, like where it squints like. I mean, I'm not saying Peter Parker doesn't have have the intelligence to to pull it off himself, but I mean, he can barely pay his rent, like let alone his he can barely pay for that kind of technology, let alone pay let alone his rent for his apartment, you know what I mean? So I'm pretty sure Mr. Stark had a little input in that. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, but still, I mean, if I didn't hear that sound, then I would have said, yeah, it's just, there's just no meaning to it. Just roll with it. But that's my opinion on the eye thing. So that's really awesome. Now, to the cons part of the suit, there's only one con. It's like one simple thing. That, the spider's emblem, the symbol, could have been slightly bigger. I mean, I never had anything against the smaller, symbol, but that one is, in my opinion, a bit smaller than how they drew it in the earlier days in the comics, and some of in the earlier TV shows, like with Spider-Man and his friends, and all that. Could have made it a little bigger, but still, that suit is fucking sick, and I think it shares a throne with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man suit, in Spider-Man 2. Yeah, I think they're sitting right there on the throne together. That's just my opinion. I mean, I couldn't choose one. I mean, like when I see Captain America Civil War, I'm probably gonna end up saying, this suit, it's grown on me a lot more than it did in the trailer. I mean, not saying that it didn't. I'm not saying it lacks any growth in my heart. I mean, I'm just saying it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, like as you see the movie. I'm sure a lot of you will probably feel that way. But I mean, yeah, that's what those are my takes on Spider-Man's suit and Captain America Civil War. I think it's freaking awesome. It's awesome that, we finally get to see him in this cinematic universe. I like to know, like, little snippets of his story, like of how we have not seen him, like how we have not come across him before. I mean, I know it's because Sony owns him and blah 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 blah. But it'll be interesting to hear a little bit of his story while we were following all these other characters in their own movies, like Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk and Thor and Captain America. So it'll be interesting to hear his story just a little bit, and then save the rest of his story, that version of Spider-Man, in his own movie. And I think, and when his own movie does come out, it should be in the present time where he has flashbacks to how he got to to this point, to his beginning days of learning that great power comes great responsibility, and it doesn't have to be his origin story doesn't have to be a primary focus, but it'll be nice to see in between his present days as Spider-Man. And as he's still, climbing, taking those steps into, learning that his great power comes with great responsibility. So, I think I broke down everything I wanted to break down. What are your thoughts on Spider-Man suit? Which one do you think is best? Do you think it's Andrew Garfield's, Tobey Maguire's, or you think it's this one? Let me know in the comment section. And if you enjoyed my pros and cons, my thoughts on the suit, give this video a thumbs up, and make sure you click subscribe if you're new to the channel. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, y'all.